Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 3, Episode 19, Time After Time. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. As always, we start with the patients. So the first patient is a man who comes in for heart surgery, and Colin and Preston have a bit of a match to see who's the better heart surgeon as they scrub in together. And Colin's still trying to impress Christina and convince her she's not the marrying kind, and she's trying to convince Colin that she is the marrying kind. However, the actions taken during the surgery do lead to Colin bowing out because she's not the person that he remembers her to be, and that is because instead of striving for excellence, she lowers herself to try to boost Preston's ego, which Colin has wounded. And so that works out for them. Next patient is still Rebecca, who is at this time still considered a Jane Doe, or rather going by the name of Ava, and a couple come in whose daughter is missing, who looks very similar to Rebecca, and because, of course, of the reconstructive surgery, they know it's not the original face, so they have hope that it may be their daughter. And Rebecca's blood type matches. She's pregnant like their daughter was. She has her tonsils removed. And so for a brief period of time, they think that's a possibility. However, Rebecca invites them into her room before she knows anything for sure, and through conversing with her, the mother realizes that it's not her daughter, and so without telling Rebecca about it, she leaves with her husband, and this leaves Alex to give the bad news to Rebecca, who then blames him instead of the couple that left without telling her that she wasn't their daughter, after giving her false hope that she'd found her family. And the third patient was Izzy's biological daughter. We've learned in past episodes that she had given a child up for adoption when she was 16 and found herself pregnant. And we now, in this episode, have that daughter coming in with leukemia, needing a bone marrow transplant, and it turns out Izzy is a match. And so Izzy does agree to give the bone marrow to her to heal her, and this repairs the rift between her and George, who wants to be there for her when he notices that something is wrong with her, though it is hinted that that may have put a strain on his and Callie's relationship, as when she finds out at the end of the day that he's lied to her about being in the clinic and that he was actually with Izzy, she's obviously put off by this, but there's no fight or blow up at this point. And that brings us now to the drama of the episode. We have Derek trying to be in the running for chief, but who ultimately is told by Richard that he's not going to get his vote because he promised Ellis to look after Meredith, and he doesn't believe that Derek can both be chief and be in a successful relationship. And so Derek then starts to question his relationship with Meredith, going so far as to ignore her calls and not come over when he said he would at the end of the episode. But Susan has been inserting herself into Meredith's life, buying groceries, trying to be there for her, trying to be a new mother figure to her. And Meredith, of course, is put off by this. However, at the end of the episode, Susan comes over and she basically explains that she's the reason that Thatcher didn't fight to be a part of Meredith's life, because when he left Ellis, it was Susan who, because they were in a new relationship, basically said not to, and so now, sort of out of a sense of guilt or belated realization that they abandoned Meredith to her mother, she basically comes over and she's trying to make that right. And Meredith does somewhat accept, stating that she's had an overbearing mother but never an overprotective mother, and that it's new, and they seem to be creating a better relationship going forward. And then we also have Sloane offering to help Richard get back in the dating field, and Addison also assists there, and Bailey, before George steps in, is the one who is there for Izzy at the start when she is approached by the adoptive parents of her daughter to potentially be a donor, which ends up working out. And that's basically what happened in the episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, it's now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. And we start with our single episode supporting character introductions. So we have Derek, Caroline, and Hannah Klein, who are the adoptive parents of Izzy's biological daughter, and Hannah is the biological daughter, worth 1 point. Then we have Charles Redford, who is the heart patient, and then we have Joan and Frank Waring, who are the couple who comes in believing that Rebecca might be their daughter, but ultimately that is proven to be false, and that is 3 points. Then we have our multi-season supporting character development, which is Susan Gray trying to be there for Meredith, inserting herself into Meredith's life, also getting more character development in that she was the one who ultimately was stopping Thatcher from fighting harder to get custody of Meredith or to be a part of Meredith's life, etc. So we get some character development there, worth 3 points, bringing us to 6. And then bringing us up to 10, worth 4 points, we have the multi-season main character development, which of course is Izzy's birth daughter getting a bone marrow transplant from her, doesn't want to meet her, but she is still willing to go above and beyond and give her bone marrow when she finds out it's a match, because obviously she does not want her biological daughter to die. And though there is a chance if she went back on the donor list that there would be another match, it is explained by the adoptive parents that she was already on the donor list. The donor that was a match died. They don't know when another match may come up, and she's taken a turn for the worse, which is why they've made the more radical decision to approach the biological mother to hope for a match, because otherwise there's a good chance she won't be there when another match comes along. However, there were some negatives to this episode, actually, a few different negatives. So, first I have the negative messaging or behavior worth 2 points each. First off is the abandonment after giving false hope that the couple did, and while it's nobody's fault that they have a missing daughter, Rebecca matches basically everything about their missing daughter. They're very similar looking. They have even similar way of speaking. They're both pregnant at the time, tonsils removed, same blood type, etc. So nobody's fault that they might think that was their daughter, but when they found out that she wasn't their daughter, instead of having the gumption to go up to her and say, "I'm sorry, we've made a mistake, you aren't our daughter," and then move on, they just decide to completely abandon her, leave the hospital, not even say anything after spending pretty much an entire day getting to know this woman, telling her about their daughter, about the things they did, who she was, etc., basically trying to say that you're her. She, of course, having a blank slate because of her amnesia, takes all of this in, only to find out that it wasn't real and they didn't even have the courtesy to say it to her face. They just abandoned her. I don't like that they did that. Additionally, when she does find out from Alex, who is an innocent third party, and had even cautioned about letting them in before all of the tests were completed to find out if she actually was their daughter, she then basically says really cruel things to him and misplaces her anger onto him, essentially shooting the messenger, which we are always advised not to do. And again, like, I think that that's just a very bad look. And it's understandable to be emotional, to be angry. But again, maybe don't take that out on the innocent. Be angry at the couple that gave you false hope and then abandoned you. Throw a few things when nobody's in the room. You know, get your anger out. Be angry. But I don't think she had to lash out at Alex, who really did nothing wrong at all. So again, I took 2 points for that. Then we have the main relationship regression or breakup, which of course is Derek starting to question his relationship with Meredith after finding out from Richard that the reason he doesn't have the chief's vote for becoming chief and isn't being supported to become chief, even though that is why he initially came out to Seattle, and joined the hospital because he was promised that position. He decides to, well, like again, he questions the relationship. At the end of the episode, we see Meredith waiting for Derek to come over, calling him and him ignoring his phone. And this, of course, shows a regression to where they were at the start of the episode, which was happily still together. And they haven't officially broken up or anything, and it is Derek's more one-sided questioning, but ultimately, I still think it's a regression from where they are at the start of the episode. And then this one I debated whether I wanted to include or not, because I can very much see this working for some people. And that is the failed emotional impact. So obviously, it's an emotional time for the character Izzy on the show when she's approached by the adoptive parents of her daughter to give her a bone marrow transplant, learning that she is potentially dying and that she could be a match, and also then learning that her daughter does not want to meet her, even though she might be there to save her life and able to save her life. And I understand why that's emotional for Izzy, and Izzy does go through it. However, as an audience member, I didn't feel that same connection. We've learned about like the adoption before. We know that it was what was best for the child in the circumstances that the child was born into or Hannah was born into. We It's reasonable that if she is happy with her adoptive parents that she may not necessarily want to meet her biological mother who gave her up. I think that's reasonable. And I do see how it affected Izzy and how it hurt Izzy, but at the same time, from an audience perspective, I didn't really feel any emotional pull at all to the situation, just on a personal level. And I know that it's a failed one because usually family moments are what gets me the most. Like, if you've watched this channel or any other videos, you would know when it's a family moment, that's usually when it's like the most successful emotional impacts. And yet, this situation, it didn't do anything for me. That's why I decided ultimately to say that it failed, while still acknowledging that for some people out there, it probably did pull on their heartstrings. They probably did feel sympathy and sadness or heartbreak for Izzy or something like that, but it didn't work for me. So I took -3 points for that as well, which ultimately actually made this episode a 0 out of 10. Um, but the lowest score we can give is a 1, so that makes this objectively a 1 out of 10 episode. And that brings us to the season 3 rankings so far on our mostly objective list. And as always, when more than one episode has the same score, they do get ranked in episode order. So in first we have Where the Boys Are, Don't Stand So Close to Me, Great Expectations, Wishing and Hoping, Walk on Water, Drowning on Dry Land, Some Kind of Miracle, in eighth Let the Angels Commit, followed by My Favorite Mistake, I Am a Tree, Time Has Come Today, Oh, the Guilt, Staring at the Sun, From a Whisper to a Scream, 6 Days, What I Am. In 17th we have Sometimes a Fantasy, followed by Scars and Souvenirs, and then this episode does come in last place at 19th. My personal ranking. Now, I personally didn't connect to this episode. A vast majority of the episode was spent on Izzy's story, which makes sense because that was supposed to be the emotional pusher for the episode, and like I said, I didn't feel a connection to the story. I didn't really connect to it or care about it. Um, Derek starting to question his relationship with Meredith after everything that they've already gone to be together, to get to a good place, and then him like trying to self-destruct and ruin it, kind of made me a little bit angry, so wasn't fond of that. Again, the misappropriated anger on Alex from Rebecca and the cruel things that she says to him after everything that he's done, which is frankly speaking above and beyond what he needed to do or should do, makes me angry. The couple abandoning and not having the bravery to just say to her face that they made a mistake, that she's not their daughter, and apologize for giving her their false hope that she had. Also, I did not like Bailey being there for Izzy was great, but then again, George, He's specifically told that Izzy hasn't asked for him. He inserts himself anyways. It does end up repairing their relationship a bit, but honestly, I didn't need their relationship to be repaired. And of course, it then ends up hurting Callie, who is his actual spouse, which again, not overly fond of. And I do understand, though, why he would be there for Izzy when he notices something wrong. They have been best friends for years, but it's still the fact that he lied to Callie instead of saying Izzy was having a hard time personally and I needed to be there for her as her friend. I think Callie would have respected that versus him lying and pretending he was in the clinic all day when she knows he wasn't. Like, I think that's where I have the problem. The only thing that I really actually liked about the episode was Meredith and Susan, um, their relationship becoming a little bit stronger, learning a little bit more about, the behind the scenes with Susan and Thatcher, that Susan was actually the one who made it so Thatcher didn't fight harder for Meredith, that maybe he would have, but he didn't, and now she's trying to repair that barrier. I also like that the Christina Burke drama has been at least temporarily resolved in that Burke and Colin, they have their little uh, scuffle, no, tussle over power in the operation where Colin purposely tries to put down Preston, and then Preston's ego is brought back up by Christina, who asks a question she already knows the answer to, which puts Colin off because she's no longer the driven person looking for excellence that she once was. So ultimately, there were two sub stories I liked, but all of the main bulk of the episode, those main stories, I wasn't overly fond of. So I gave it a 4 because I don't think it was a terrible episode. I do think that, especially like the Izzy storyline, would have been really successful with some people that aren't me. Um, and I didn't hate it either. Like, I wasn't angered by it or disgusted by it or really put off by it. I just didn't personally connect to it, as I said. So ultimately, I thought 4 was fair. But that brings the personal ranking so far for season 3 to in first, Some Kind of Miracle, Walk on Water, Drowning on Dry Land, Wishing and Hoping, Great Expectations, Don't Stand So Close to Me, 6 Days, Where the Boys Are, From a Whisper to a Scream, Staring at the Sun, Let the Angels Commit, I Am a Tree, What I Am, Scars and Souvenirs, Sometimes a Fantasy, My Favorite Mistake is in 16th place. Then in 17th, we have Time Has Come Today, Oh, the Guilt, and this episode does fall into last place, Time After Time. Bringing us now to the series ranking so far, and on our mostly objective ranking, we have Season 1 in first, followed by Season 2. Season 3 so far has a score of 122 out of a possible 230. Then on the personal ranking side, Season 2 is in first, followed by Season 1, and Season 3 so far has 149 out of a possible 230. With that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 3, Episode 19, Time After Time. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.